When you first unbox the AYN Thor, there is this instant sense you're holding something different. The sharpness of the OLED screens that grab you immediately, it just pops in a way that you don't usually expect at this price. The weight is solid but manageable, sitting nicely in your hands, and of course there's the main event. 2 screens. That alone shifts your expectations. It feels experimental, futuristic, and genuinely exciting. I felt all of that for the first few minutes. I was impressed for the first few days, and I kept thinking, wait, is this thing actually pulling off the dual screen concept? And then the answer was mostly yes. It wasn't perfect, but it was bold, and most importantly, it felt usable. After 3 weeks of carrying the Thor around, slipping it into jacket pockets and pulling it out on commutes, using it for Netflix, YouTube and long gaming sessions, one small detail kept coming back into my mind. Something I didn't notice right away, something that wasn't flashy, didn't seem urgent, and yet it started to affect how I used the device, and that's the hinge. Now, don't worry, the hinge isn't a disaster, it doesn't snap, it doesn't creak loudly, it doesn't mess with gameplay, but it feels off, and the way it feels affects everything else, not in a dramatic, newsworthy way, but in a slow, quiet and consistent way. Here's what I mean. The first inch or so of opening the screen has this very light, almost floppy feel. It doesn't feel right, it doesn't fight back, it doesn't guide your motion, compared to something like the Nintendo 3DS, which gave you smooth, satisfying resistance throughout the opening. The Thor feels unsure, and that small feeling of looseness, it sticks with you. It changes how confident you feel when interacting with the device. Once it reaches its locking position, it's fine, it holds steady, the screen stays in place, but at that first moment, that lack of tactile feedback, it inserts a little hesitation into every interaction. And over time, that kind of adds up. Hey, if you guys like this video so far, please subscribe. Because of that little hesitation, I started using the Thor more carefully over the past few weeks. I've opened and closed this Thor handheld around 100 times, and almost every time I used 2 hands. Not because I had to, but because it felt right. I didn't do the one-hand flip that feels natural with so many other clamshell devices. I'd pause, hold it with both hands, and ease it open. Same thing when I slipped it into a pocket. I'd position it carefully. If I was taking it out of a bag, I'd make sure nothing could press inside the hinge too hard. That kind of cautious behavior isn't really normal to me. I like travel devices that can survive being tossed around a little, devices I don't really have to think about. But the Thor, I was thinking about that hinge. And the more I used it, the more I started to notice another detail, a slight asymmetry. The hinge is mounted on the left side, and that feels firmer and more solid. But the right side has a tiny bit of flex. If you press lightly on the top screen while holding the bottom, the right screen edge moves slightly more on the left. You won't notice it when it's sitting still or even during normal gameplay, but when you're adjusting the screen angle or picking it up in a tight space or pulling it out of a jacket pocket, that movement shows just a little bit. It's small, but it's there, and again it adds up to the feeling of uncertainty. That creeping uncertainty made me wonder if it was just me or if other owners were noticing it too. I checked on Reddit, and on the AYN Thor subreddit a Hinge mega thread had popped up. Tons of owners were posting photos of line marks that looked like cracks near the hinge. At first it looked bad. A few early images made it seem like the plastic was splitting. Naturally some panic set in, but as more people joined the conversation and as AYN themselves responded, things have gotten more nuanced. What people thought were cracks were in many cases just inject mold seams, a normal part of plastic manufacturing. These seams can look like cracks under the right light, especially on black plastic. But they aren't structural failures, just visible joints from where the two halves of the mold meet. They don't necessarily mean something wrong. That said, they are located right where the hinge experiences stress, so even if they are not cracks right now, they could over time be places where stress builds up. After reading the thread, I took a careful look at my own Thor, and yeah, in a certain light I could see one of those faint lines. Same place as other users has mentioned. So I opened up the back cover and inspected the hinge. What I found was matching with what the subreddit said. No visible cracks, no spreading damage, just a standard seam in the plastic. Nothing urgent, but still something to watch. And so I kept watching. I kept using the device, but stayed aware of how to handle it. I even installed screen protectors on both panels just to play it safe, and one of them went slightly crooked, but that's entirely on my part and it doesn't affect the function. I also chose to keep using the stock case rather than adding the grip shell case. Why? Because I wanted to see how it held up under normal everyday use. Just a little bit of extra protection, like most people would use it. The good news, after 3 weeks, the hinge hasn't gotten any worse. The same loose initial movement is still there, the right side flex is still there, but nothing has progressed into something worse. Nothing feels like it's about to break, and that's a win. But even so, I still find myself treating the Thor more like a fragile prototype than a rugged handheld. The thing is, that affects more than just how to open or close it. It changes how comfortable you feel with the device. Normally, after a week or two, you relax, you stop thinking about how to hold something. You just use it. But with the Thor, I never fully reached that point yet. There's always been a bit of tension in the back of my mind. Not full-blown worry, but a kind of ongoing caution. That's not just an emotional reaction, it changes behavior. You move more slowly, you avoid using it with one hand while the other one is full, you adjust your grip more carefully. These small changes matter. They are signals that the design, while functional, doesn't quite invite casual, confident use yet. And look, to be fair, this is the trade-off you make with something ambitious. Dual screen designs are harder, they are more complex, and there are moving parts. They are not automatically a flaw, but when you run across a stress point like a hinge, it becomes something worth watching. So what do I recommend? Be gentle for the first couple of months with your handheld. Use a case, don't throw it in a bag next to your keys or hard objects. Open it with 2 hands whenever you can and give that hinge time to prove itself. Don't assume every seam is a crack, but if you do suspect damage, reach out to AYN support. So here's my verdict after 3 weeks. The hinge gets a cautious 6 out of 10. It works, it hasn't failed, but it hasn't earned my trust fully either yet. It's the weakest part of an otherwise excellent handheld. The rest of the Thor is really impressive, the OLED screens are gorgeous and the controls feel solid. I'm not here to tell you not to buy the Thor. I'm just saying if you need a handheld that's bomb-proof that you can throw into a backpack without thinking about it, the hinge might give you pause. But if you're into the idea of dual screens and you're willing to treat it gently at first, it still offers a lot of value for the price. Moving forward, the real test will be time. More open and close cycles and more real-world handling. So that's where I am at. I like the Thor, I just don't fully trust the hinge yet. If you're using one right now, let me know in the comments how your hinge is holding up. And if you're thinking of picking up one, would this sway you away?
Editing Nora here. 99% of you guys haven't subscribed, which is insane to me. I mean, we can reach the 2K and that's the goal for me before the end of the year. So please subscribe, because if we reach that 2K, I will give away a Trim UI brick handheld console. So let's make this amazing community very, very big together, and let's win you that Trim UI brick. Bye-bye.